Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. How is everyone doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Awesome. I love it.
I'm in Arizona.
What's up? Missed it. Awesome. Well, let's jump into it. John, do you want to start us off with some off market? I know this has been a very big topic for most all of our agents, and it's come up in a lot of conversations. So we're excited for you to really dig deeper on this so agents know how to succeed.
Yeah, so I'm happy to do that. It's a question I have to answer many times a week, and so it's really nice to just have a chance to address it in one forum. And so the first thing I wanted to do is to give the idea of, why, first of all, why we can't do off-market promotion, and then how to correctly legally handle an off-market transaction. Okay, so let's look at, since we got it on the screen, let's look at the Northwest MLS's rule, which is Rule 2C, that says no promotion advertising when the listing is not published. Okay, so it's to give all members a fair chance to sell a listing, and really it's to the seller's advantage to have everyone be aware of it and get more offers, more competition, right? Mm-hmm. So I've invited Anna McCluskey, and since she's from Enumclaw, we'll call her Anna Jane McCluskey, and she's going to invite her to join us and talk a little bit about her experience as an agent with this particular rule and this particular issue.
Yeah, so I was looking at all of our announcements over the last few weeks, and we are starting to see a lot of people saying, hey, people just don't want to even get on the market. They've got, exceptions right now that are going on, or they're working from home, or their kids from home. So what I thought I would talk about today is maybe what we don't know until we know it, if that makes sense. And that would be, some of those could be construed by the MLS as pre-listing. Some of them could be a dual agency situation, and we just want to make sure that we're not pre-listing anything. There's fines lobbied by the MLS for those kinds of things. In fact, we had one this last week that was lobbied against somebody, and they get lobbied against you, most likely, and they can also be brought to you for your office. So for instance, your Keller Williams Puget Sound or Mountains to Sound will actually fine the brokerage itself as well. Once you have those fines on your record, then if anything an accident should come up, you maybe do something improperly that you don't understand, now you've already got a fine on your record. So I don't want those little mistakes to make a difference in your career. Nothing is worth putting errors in a long career over one house. So I thank you for bringing this up so that we can know that we're all on the same page and we understand the rules and regulations with the MLS regarding pre-listing activity and what that actually looks like, so we can do these things properly.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's the example on the screen of that a recent fine against our Keller Williams sister over in Western Realty, who got a $2,500 fine for promoting a listing that was not listed yet, right?
Right.
Okay, so the intent of the exception to the rule is when you have somebody, let's say, for example, you think you're going to be listing for, they're an old friend or something, and then they plan on listing with you, but in the meantime, they run into somebody at work who says, oh, I'll just buy it from you. I didn't know you were going to sell your house. I'll just buy it from you. So it hasn't been listed yet. There really isn't a plan as to when it's going to be listed or anything like that. It's just there's nothing that's been signed and nothing done. But now a friend comes to you and says, would you write this deal for us? Okay. So that's what we would call an off-market listing. It's not been listed. There's no MLS number that's been assigned. There's no contractual anything. And so in order to make sure that we are legally complying with the state of Washington on this, we want to make sure that if we're going to do that transaction and write that contract, we have to first identify who we're going to represent in that transaction. Are you going to represent the seller? Or are you going to represent the buyer? Or are you going to represent both as a dual agent? Doesn't matter, but you want to make sure you identify it right away. And all parties, whether you represent them or not, have to be given the agency law pamphlet. You want proof that you've given it to them. So you want to get a signed receipt of some kind, something initialed or dated or whatever, so that you have proof that you've given them the agency law pamphlet. And then you represent, and then the laws in Washington requires that if you're going to represent a seller, you must have a signed agency agreement with that seller. So that means if you're going to represent the seller, even as a dual agent, you have to have Form 47 signed. So again, that's Form 47 that would be signed by the seller. And then if you're going to represent the buyer also, you would want to have the Form 41A signed by the buyer, which is the buyer agency agreement, because dual agency requires a written agreement, agency agreement with each side that you're representing. So again, you would want Form 47 signed by the seller. It establishes a commission that the seller is going to pay for that listing side. Then the 41A is the buyer's agreement, as many of you are aware, that is going to be signed by the buyer to create that agency relationship there, and would identify a commission, which, you know, can be paid by the seller or the buyer, however that's going to be done. You just want to make sure it's identified somewhere, because you don't want to be, you know, cut out of the deal somehow. So make sure you identify the commissions in those agreements. But that's the main first thing you've got to make sure that you do in an off-market transaction. When the transaction closes and is done, then and only then will you submit the Form 1 ULS. And Form 1 ULS is like an input sheet for an off-market sale. And so that becomes now in the records of the MLS. And so other members of the MLS can gather that information and use it for comps and things like that. And that was an agreement between members of our MLS that we thought that was the best thing to do, you know, to have that be open and on the market. So there is a fine for not inputting that 1 ULS within 3 days of a closing of an off-market sale.
So can I interrupt just to be really clear? When you're doing a Form 47, it means that the buyer has already been identified. So it's not so much that we're like promoting it, right? It's the buyer is identified. Yeah.
Correct.
And so it's a neighbor or a friend or somebody that says, hey, we really want to sell it, but we want to go through an agent to do it mutually between all of us, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct. And so a real difficult gray area, because you've seen that the fines can be hefty. You know, we just saw a $2,500 fine. I've seen $3,500 fines. So for promoting an off-market listing, and so we don't want to be, you know, we don't want to be promoting those. And so if we're going to promote something, we've got to be awfully careful about it. I know we recently had a situation where one of our agents had a owner, so I'm not going to say seller, just an owner, who said, you know, I'm not going to list my property, but, you know, if a buyer came along, I would certainly be, you know, willing to pay a commission, you know, and if you can bring something together for us. Okay, so some people call that a pocket listing. Mm-hmm. I want you to know that that's a misnomer, because it's not a listing at all. It's nothing. It's just an agreement that the owner doesn't even have to comply with. And if you want to try to promote that, that's a really dangerous area to go in, right? Because the MLS could come after you and say you're promoting a listing. Well, no, I'm not. It's not listed. It's not any kind of a listing. It's just an owner who has indicated that they would sell their property if the right buyer came along. Tons of risk for that, well, we'll say listing agent, even though it's not a listing, there's tons of risk in that regard, right? Because they don't have to comply or do anything at all. And then the buyer, there's some risk for the buyer's agent if they bring a buyer over there, because again, that owner doesn't have to do anything at all. They have no obligation. And so that's a real gray area where a fine could be levied by the Northwest MLS, but at the same time, it's, you know, the argument could be made, well, this isn't a listing, this isn't listed, this isn't, you know, anything. It's just there's a particular owner who says they would sell if a buyer came along. Well, so can't that be promoted? Well, you know, that's your risk, I guess, if you want to take it. I wouldn't personally want to do that, but I guess that would be your call, and you would pay that fine if you get fined.
So are you saying in a perfect world, if we found a seller willing to sell and we had the buyer, that's a better situation than if we came across this seller and then tried to promote this to other agents?
Right.
That's where it gets finicky.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. What questions do you guys have listening to this? I know that playing matchmaker right now has been so big in so many people's businesses because of the temperature of the market. So what questions do you guys have for John regarding this, to make sure that we're doing this, you know, we're representing everybody we can, we're finding them properties, but we're also protecting ourselves?
Hey, John, it's Jay. I got a quick question.
Sure.
So what happens if I'm over at a client's house? They're going on the market next week. They're painting. I do a picture of them in front of their house painting, saying something on Facebook that's like, look forward to this next week. Is that wrong?
Yes, you'll probably get fined for that.
Okay. Because I see those kind of things on Facebook all the time.
Right. And so what happens is that if nobody catches you and nobody turns you in or anything else, then
Right.
then there's no problem. But if somebody turns you in to the MLS, then there's likely a $2,500 to $3,500 fine.
Well, and my secondary question is, what about wholesalers? What about agents that wholesale, and so they honestly never put it on the market, but they send out, because I'm on about 2 or 3 different email lists where I get lists of properties that someone's got for sale, and they're an agent.
Usually I find that they're not agents. So there is a whole lot of liability when people are doing wholesaling as agents, and they are getting fined and they're getting noticed. So I do actually kind of see notices come up in some of those groups where they're like, hey, who's the rat in here? Who's reporting me for selling these?
Gotcha.
And it does happen quite often. A lot of wholesalers are not agents though. So
Gotcha. All right.
That kind of changes the dynamic for them, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, and there could be, in that same vein, there could be agents who know of the wholesaler, and they're trying to promote, you know, that they have stuff, you know, and that kind of thing. And so that's a harder one, because there is no listing. We're not talking about a specific anything. We're just saying, you know, I have a source of owners who would probably pay a commission, you know, if you are interested in one of the properties, and if you want to give me a call, I will see if I can match you up, right? Okay, so is there danger in doing that? Yeah, there's danger of getting fined, right?
Yeah, but
Plus there's danger in having someone do a transaction and cut you out from a commission. Carrie?
some of the wholesalers are agents, and they do have a signed contract with the owner, and they're wholesaling it to other agents, and then the agents put their commission on top of it and sell it to their buyer. So some of the wholesalers do already have a contract with the owner.
Okay. So some of those issues, you're going to want to have a conversation with the legal department at the Northwest MLS just to make sure.
Yeah.
You know, what's okay and what's not okay to do in terms of those things. So yeah, and also I saw a note that I think Howard had put it on there that also just putting a sign post in the yard, you can get fined just for the signpost, even if it has no sign on it. And that's correct. You know, you don't want to put a lockbox on either, because you can get fined for that. So unless it's been actually listed and published in the Northwest MLS, none of those things can go up.
Got it. Kathy just put, do you see that, John?
I don't see great, but let's see. Gone. What was the question?
What is the suggested fee associated with this type of transaction? Would the buyer and seller use an attorney to assist with the transaction? Would you promote your skills after the transaction on how you satisfied buyer and seller needs? What if seller says, quote, if I can't sell it at that price, I don't want to list it. I'll just sell it to Uncle Henry. Should the fee for writing up the sales contract be as it was for the listing commission?
Well, that's up to each broker, you know, depending on your risk, depending on your, you know, where you see your value being. I think that this market has helped us recognize value for what it really is. Getting a buyer used to have some value, and it doesn't have much value anymore, does it? You know, there are a dime a dozen, right? So where does your value come in? Is it practicing law by writing a contract? Well, no, but it's your expertise in understanding the contract, how it works, how it flows. So you always represent someone. And when when you're doing writing a transaction, and when you're writing it, you're using your expertise and knowledge of the contracts and the potential pitfalls of the contracts to write a good contract for them. And so what do you charge for that? It depends, you know, I mean, it's going to depend in 1,000 different situations. So you can't put a price tag on it without really knowing what the situation is.
Could I interject in terms of what my experience is? And I guess my questions really relate to this. I had a former client who had a renter in their unit, wanted to sell it to the renter. And when we presented the offer that the seller wanted to sell the home for, when we presented the buyer's offer, the seller's wife got up out of the restaurant and just walked away and said, I could sell it I could fix it up and sell it for far more money. Okay, so then I ended up taking the buyer out to look at comparables, and they realized the value in this particular property. As it turned out, with the proper forms, I did both sides of the transaction and cut my commission. Well, that was a big mistake, because there was a divorce between the sellers, and I had to convince the buyers, and then there was some challenges with the condition of the property. So my expertise certainly was of value here, and so word of mouth, don't necessarily cut your commission for both sides. The other thing in terms of oftentimes someone will say, oh, if I can't sell it for this particular price, you know, I'll just sell it to Uncle Harry. But then the experience I had when we listed the property, Uncle Harry was not willing to pay market value for the property. And so the seller ended up making much more money by listing it. And Uncle Harry just walked away and said, nah, I'm not interested in it. So that was kind of the rationale for my questions and based on the experiences I had.
Well, that's an interesting question, because I know that some of these things are based on, you know, just being respectful of our time with our clients, and they don't want to be, you know, hindered by being off market, things like that. And I just wanted to kind of bring light to that, because maybe, and I'm wondering, what are those conversations maybe that you're having with people to say, hey, go ahead and stay at Seaside for a couple of days. You've got internet service. You can potentially, of course, you know, do work from there. The kids can probably work from do their school from there if they're not already in school, things like that. So I guess I'm wondering, what are those conversations that we're having with people to say, you know, if you could make $25,000, $30,000, would it make sense to go to Seabrook for the weekend? Or is it just really that people are saying, I adamantly refuse to leave right now. It's just not convenient for my life. So I'm wondering what others are experiencing, because this kind of started as a question like, hey, I'm seeing those. Why are sellers all of a sudden doing this? So it's a new change that I hadn't seen before. Is there any insight from agents about that?
Nothing?
No insights?
I am with you, Anna. I do feel like this is popping up more and more.
Well, and honestly, in my opinion, is it more inconvenient to be inconvenienced for 3 or 4 days in the market that we're currently in? Or is it more inconvenient to be in the market we were before, where you're on the market maybe 3 weeks to a month, and you have people randomly coming in and out of your home for a month rather than a couple of days?
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah, and let me add something with this, because Anna and I had this discussion, and that is that to put a house under contract off market really is, how much money is that seller going to lose by not having it on the market and having competitive forces push that price up? $50,000, $100,000? I mean, it's a lot of money. And so you always want to make sure if it's going to be an off-market sale, you have that conversation with the seller about putting it on the market and having the competitive pressures that will force that price up.
Right. And is there any liability maybe when they come back and say, hey, I lost money potentially when their neighbor sells for 50,000 more or something like that? I'm not sure if there would be, but it's worth thinking about. I'm not saying everybody's wrong in doing this, and that's certainly not what the intention is. I'm just like, what is that open conversation? Why are people struggling so bad to put it on the market when they know that potentially there's going to be multiple offers out there? Is there any solution that we can get them on the market? And honestly, in a selfish way, we're damaging our income as well, right? We're not selling that house for its maximum amount that we potentially could. So our commission is lower. And do they really see our value as agents? They're coming to us, so they're certainly willing to work with an agent, but they're almost doing it for sale by owner, if that makes sense. And so I don't know if it's necessarily good for our industry either as well. So I'm just trying to think of all the components that I can, you know, are we doing the right thing for these people? And I know we respect what they're saying. Our clients put something out there and they want us to serve them in that way. And we always want to respect their wishes. So I'm trying to think of all different scenarios that we want to make sure we're also not liable for anything.
Right.
Well, I have a question. I've got an investor who buys a lot of properties and then he fixes them up. And while he's fixing them, he is always talking to a lot of people and he knows a lot of agents. And so he sells almost all of his off market to either people he knows, to other agents and things like that. So he always tells me about any of his that's coming up. So he very seldom ever lists his. So almost all of his is off market. So I like to promote his. So how do I do that and stay out of trouble?
Well, your situation you just gave seems perfectly legitimate to me. That's not a licensed real estate agent doing it. That's the owner of the properties, or owner of the property who's doing that. You know, the buyer who's going to become the owner seller, and they're the ones who are going with word of mouth to people they know. I just wouldn't, you know, as the agent, I wouldn't join in and be a participant in that, because that could be looked at as pre-marketing by you, but the owner themselves, they don't have any obligation to follow our MLS rules.
I think that her question was, how can she promote those properties he's sending to her though, and stay in without any liability there? So is there some way that she likes to promote the properties that he sends to her, if that makes sense, right? And
Right, because he's willing to pay me a commission and also another agent a commission.
right. So her question is, can she do that, or how can she do that properly?
Well, yeah, so if, and this is just my opinion and my feel for it. So you would want to get confirmation from the Northwest MLS for sure, but I would think that if you were to, to contact an agent or an agent were to contact you saying they had a buyer in this particular area, for you to put that deal together, I don't think that's a problem. For you to reach out to someone that has that, another agent who has a buyer that's going to meet that criteria, I don't personally think that's a problem. I think you're acting in the best way in your agency relationship to reach out to somebody in that regard. But the Northwest MLS could say different, so I would check with them and try to get their sanction.
I'm wondering if John, what about the buyer no agency agreement, or that the listing no agency agreement? Is that still an option for something like that, where you were like, hey, no?
I would never do that.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Did that feel like that answered your question? That was Carrie, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because it sounds like
the boss.
I'm not sure if I totally got, and maybe there's some masterminding around that, Carrie. I think that there is some, to be honest, there's probably some liability there, but I think that maybe we could mastermind about that question. So I'm not sure if we totally got to the answer of that.
Yeah, but the question I would ask on that, the follow-up question I would ask on that is that particular individual you just described getting the best money for the property? I don't think they are. I think that they only get the best money when they put it on the market and have competitive forces pushing the price up.
So how is that any different than a seller bringing that to me that's not an investor? So why is it okay for Carrie to do that, but not for a normal seller?
I don't think it is, because I think when John was describing it, I think he was saying like when an agent brings it to you, you can promote it. But this is a non-listed property, John. So I think we're still in kind of that same boat, if that makes sense. And I understand your question, Nicole, too, because you're saying, hey, wait, that's no different from an investor. It isn't. So I don't
and I get that, like, people want to wait. I mean, I am obviously on the other end of this hot topic because we are doing a ton of off-market deals right now, and our sellers don't want people in their homes. They don't care about a bidding war. They do not care about the extra money. We have a program where they can go stay in a hotel for the weekend, and that's not appeasing to them. It's not. Yeah. They do not want people in their homes. They do not want their kids to have to be disrupted with school. They're seeing 50, 60, 70 showings. They see agents out there on Facebook saying about, oh my God, there was 100 showings this weekend. And it's our responsibility that we created this, because they're seeing us brag about how many showings and how many offers, and they don't want that. They don't.
Or even saying things like on our posts, this crazy out of control market. Oh, it's so scary. Don't say that.
Yeah. But that's how it is. Like we've taught people how to treat us in this market. On top of, you add a pandemic with COVID, and this is what has come out of it. And if people want to sell off market, I'm not going to stop it. I mean, I'm not, but they understand. We have a form that they sign stating that you could potentially lose money, but it's a potential, right? Like that's judgment. That's really not anything other than who's to say. I mean, I've listed properties that got no offers over the weekend. Is that really still the market? I mean, that's speculation on our part, and not, in my opinion, looking at what's best interest of what the client wants.
So guys,
I'm just on the other end of it.
What this is telling me is guys, I think we need to pull a mastermind together or a class around this topic. There's so much gray space in this, and we're seeing it left and right. So this is a great insight. So we'll make sure we put together that mastermind and bring you guys all into this, but we need to be respectful of time. And we've got some other topics that we want to cover here. Really, I kind of want to leave what John and Anna and everybody just kind of talked about. If you have a question or you are unconfident about something, reach out to John. It's better to over ask and stay on the side of caution than it is to get overly excited and overpromise to potential clients or customers. But we'll make sure we get this topic back on our calendar so that we can have deeper conversations about specific things that are happening, because each transaction, even in just the little bit we've shared here, is so unique. And that's where I think we're seeing all the gray space. So you guys pay attention. We'll make sure we get that out to you guys within the next little bit here, because this is now, and this is affecting our now business. So we will get this addressed. John, Anna, thank you so much for your time, and everybody else that kind of pitched in with that. Solid information to help everybody move forward. And we'll keep this conversation going for sure.
Make sure you get Nicole in that brainstorming session.
Nicole, yes, we will.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much. Awesome, guys. So May 13th is probably my most favorite day of the year, especially once I got into partnership with Keller Williams. And I would love for Julie and Jackie and all of our culture committees to kind of jump on and share what we're doing to celebrate Mo Anderson, which is Mo Anderson's birthday, is where Red Day kind of came from. So let's show our Julie and Jackie, can you guys jump on and just share a little bit about what we're going to be doing this year to make sure we're pouring into our communities? I don't care who goes first. Jackie, go.
Is Jackie gonna go? Or, okay, go Jackie. Hey, this is November. Jackie's microphone isn't working, so let her scoot over next to me. And then hopefully my laptop doesn't die.
Okay. Perfect.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Sweet. So as you can see on the screen, May 13th, we've got a lot of things going on. It's actually going to officially start May 1st. We're going to be doing a drive, a fundraising drive for 9 Line. They're a local nonprofit that helps housing and job skills for veterans. So our drive is basically all home goods: toilet paper, towels, sheets, blankets, pillows, everything you can think of that would be nice to have when you first move into a home. There'll be baskets or boxes set up at the offices to bring your items in May 1st through the 13th, and we will hand deliver them on the 13th day of Red Day. So keep an eye out for that. We will also be volunteering at 9 Line. They have 4 homes that need a lot of cleanup, maintenance work. You name it, they kind of need it. So we're going to have 4-hour shifts to sign up for each of those homes. We also are going to have some shifts available at the Boys and Girls Club in Federal Way for a lot of hands-on gardening, outdoor cleanup as well. And then we do have a blood drive that is going to be the following day, May 14th. We are doing a takeover. All these links will be on the Red Day event page. I will put it in the comments in the chat box. So if you are not on that Facebook event page, please get on there. All the links for signups will be there. And then we're going to end the day at the Log Cabin. It does say Auburn on the screen. It's actually in Sumner. Our good friend Tori Mayfield from the Team That Rocks owns that bar. We've got some KW drink specials, and we're going to get out and support him in the community there as well. So we hope to see a lot of you there, and thank you for those of you that ordered t-shirts. We'll be getting out there in our swag, and we'll be excited to see everyone.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I know it's a lot of work to put these together, and I know we've got a lot of agents excited to participate. Let's swing over to Miss Julie. Julie, what do you guys got going for the Kent location?
All right, well, it's actually Delay.
Delay, thank you. I apologize.
No worries. I know it's a crazy name, but we are super excited this year. We are putting together a food donation with Northwest Harvest, and along with a biking coalition that puts bikes together for lower income or kids that need bikes. It's a bike rescue. We're getting monetary donations from different areas around, but ours is May 13th from 3 to 7, and the YMCA there in Kent has donated their area. We're going to have a drive-in, drive-out food donation for Northwest Harvest, and we're going to have food trucks there, t-shirts. We would love you and your families to come out in your swag, which will be available next week at the office. So come pick up your t-shirts. And 3 to 7, We, like I said, we'll have food trucks there. We're going to just be getting people to donate through a, no touch kind of thing. Local owned coffee, and also one food truck. So we've put together these cards for Mountains to Sound. There are these postcards. If you guys want the PDF version of them, so you can start to market this on we would love for you guys to market this on your Facebook pages. And, I've got my little postcard here, but, give where you live. It gives people invitations to come and drive through and give what they can donate during that time on May 13th. And also it's a great way for you guys to get out in your neighborhood and, put these on paper bags and, try to get food donations from your neighborhoods, from your sphere. And so these are available. They're on our site right now, our Facebook site. So you can get a copy of this and kind of make it for yourself. But anyway, we're super excited about that. Rosie and Ashley and I, and along with the whole culture committee, are really excited to give back to those different organizations this year.
I love it. Awesome, you guys, super exciting. I'm just curious, on either location, do you guys have a goal around like any donations or specific numbers that you guys want to make sure we hit? I don't think, all of us are fairly competitive. So I'm just curious, if we have an end goal in mind?
I don't think we've personally discussed it. We'd like to get tons of food and, bike donations and stuff for our bike people. I don't think we didn't decide a monetary donation.
No, I was just curious what that number was, because I know I'm competitive. So if I know what the goal is, I'll make sure we reach it, right? Excited for you guys working so hard to put these together. I know it's a huge impact that we can do for our communities and the people that we love. Another committee we're going to swing into.
Lindy, but wait, before we go on, can I just add something?
Yeah, of course.
There's some chat box stuff going on, some confusion. Happy hour is the day of Red Day. May 13th is happy hour. The only thing on May 14th is the blood drive. Everything else is on May 13th. So just wanted to clear up that confusion.
On this thing, it says May 14th. So that's where the question is coming from on the graphic, Jackie.
Got it. We can get that cleaned up.
Big thumbs up.
Easy fix. Easy fix. Awesome. Any other questions regarding Red Day, you guys? Perfect. Let's swing into the newest ALC committee that we have for our locations, which is diversity, equity, inclusion. Today we have Jen in November. They're going to be able to share with you guys a little bit more about what this committee is, their goals for it, and what we're going to see in 2021. November, hey.
What's up? I'm excited. I don't see Jen, but I know she's on here.
How do I just talk?
Lene, yeah, Lene couldn't make it, unfortunately, but she's here in spirit.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen, if you want to kick it off.
Everyone can hear me? This is weird to me. I'm on my phone. Okay, so Lindy set the bar pretty high about the information that we're going to talk about today. We, are actually new. As you can see, November's joined on. We don't really have a set roadmap of what we're going to go off of. So basically what we're looking for is participation and feedback. We want to know what you guys are looking for from us. We are all always looking to grow, and we want to talk about having some of those difficult conversations and how we can all come together to have more of a common ground and see what we can do to come together better as a community. So one of the things that we are doing is encouraging all agents to read the book, The Color of Law. And I think that we're also going to start with a book club, and we'll start that with reading the book, White Fragility. So I guess at this point, we're looking for, participation. So who wants to join us and see what we can do to make this a more active community and help the office to grow and learn more?
I love it.
Yeah, definitely. And just to piggyback on what Jen was saying, the group, what it's really about is just really expanding your awareness around what we consider social norms, what is equity, right? And how even in our industry as real estate agents, we are a huge factor in a lot of stuff that's happened. If I could encourage any of you, especially as real estate agents, to read a book that will just make your eyes pop out of your head. Or as Lene likes to say, just whip your hair back. You'll be, The Color of Law will blow your mind. If you could do anything to enrich your lives and to understand and empathize with a lot of what's going on with the BIPOC community, right? We all want to understand what's happening. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. We don't get it. Read that book. Please just read that book. And that's really the beginning of it, because it is a new community. We don't really have a roadmap. We don't know how to gauge success or not. And so for us, it's just simply getting the awareness out, and reading that book, The Color of Law, is instrumental in the first step for this community. I know that Lindy did send us a really fun email this morning, actually, in regard to the author of The Color of Law. And I think, Lindy, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a group down in California that's sitting down and kind of doing a mastermind interview with him on, I don't remember the date though.
It's
on the 27th?
May 13th.
May 13th.
May
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah.
Red Day.
Yeah.
So it's Red Day. We're going to try to see if it's recorded or not and get our hands on it. If not, and you have a moment, hopefully we can get Lindy or Goldie to blast the link out there.
For sure.
It's so important for us as real estate agents to really, really understand our role in the way things are right now. I don't know how else to say that in the nicest way, but it's crazy. Literally, my hair blown back.
Agreed.
That's it though. That's really it. Just starting the conversation. We are planning to start having our meetings just once a month. It'll be about an hour long. So, I mean, like I said, we're trying to grow. So having them weekly doesn't quite make sense, but it will kind of feel like a book club to start off, but we will start generating different events and cultural events to introduce ourselves and each other to everybody else's worlds, if that makes sense. So we haven't set a date yet, so that's to be determined. But when we do, we'll ask Goldie to blast it out to everybody and just jump.
Nope, we lost her.
All right. Perfect. Well, you guys, thank you so much for being on the call today. I know it was packed full of information. To kind of wrap things up, we will get a mastermind on the schedule for everybody regarding off-market properties. We look forward to Red Day and all the hard work that our culture committees have put in. You guys, they have worked their butts off to make this happen. And it's an opportunity for us to really give back to the communities that do so much for us in our business. And it's just really fun. And then, of course, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, excited to kind of see what that looks like moving forward. I'm excited to be a part of it. And if anybody's got questions, reach out to Jen, reach out to November. I know they're here to answer any questions. And of course, if you guys need anything from me, I'm a text, phone call, or email away. Let's make it a fantastic week, you guys. Appreciate you all so much.